All righty, welcome everybody on YouTube. How are we doing? If you're watching the replay, you can fast forward. Welcome. All righty, we'll kick off here in a few minutes. If you're watching the replay, fast forward. If you're watching this on Zoom or Instagram, you're in the right place. How is everybody doing? Well, we're getting this thing going. All right, we are live on Zoom. We are live on YouTube. We are live on Instagram. If you're watching the replay, fast forward. But hey, let me know if you are. Welcome to day number 4 of our Outwitting the Devil book club. We will be announcing the next book for November on this call at some point, maybe at the end, maybe in the middle. Stay tuned. Let me know in the chat where you're tuning in from. If you're tuning in on YouTube or on Instagram or on Zoom. Excited for today's final day of the book club. Let's kick this thing off here in about 1 minute. Going to go live on Instagram actually as well. Alrighty. How are we doing? What's good? We are live on Zoom. We got YouTube rolling. Day 4 of my book club. Good to see everybody. We're going to kick this off here in about 30 seconds. Glad you guys are here. Welcome, everybody. Excited that we are coming to an end of this book club. I don't know about you, but I've been here all 4 days. This is our 4th day reading Outwitting the Devil. Let me know if you've been here in the chat, if you're on YouTube or on Zoom, if you've been here all 4 days, or if you watched the recording. Excited to finish this thing out. Just got back from the gym, so I'm looking a little rough right now, but excited that y'all are here, spending a Friday night over here, 10 p.m. Eastern, where I'm at. And today we're going to close out this book club, and then I'm going to announce the next book. It'll be like mid-November before Thanksgiving. For the next one that we'll do. It's 4 days a month, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at 10 p.m. Eastern, and I'll announce the dates here in a couple of minutes. So excited that y'all are here. If you're on Instagram, let me know where you guys are tuning in from as well, and let's kick this thing off. So we're on this chapter called Seeds of Fear. If you guys don't know the background story of this book, it was written in the 1930s, okay? It was published in 2011. Or in 2012. Yeah, the Dodgers lost today. So we're not going to talk about baseball. We're going to talk about Outwitting the Devil on a Friday night. Glad you guys are here spending some time. But Dodgers will win in LA. And then I will be going, hopefully, to the World Series in either LA, but probably I'll go to the one in New York because it's closer. Anyways, so let's get into it. Okay, let's get into it. Good to see you guys. Let's not talk about baseball, please. Thank you very much. All right, so Seeds of Fear, Chapter 7. If you haven't been here, I would encourage you to get the book, listen to the audio on YouTube. It's free on YouTube. Grab the book, okay? So this chapter is called Seeds of Fear, and just a quick recap. Written in the 30s, published in 2011, 2012, because the family was in belief that people were going to crucify them, that people were going to kill them because of some of the information that's in this book. This is the same author, Napoleon Hill. He wrote Think and Grow Rich, Laws of Success, some of the most important books in personal development history. Okay, so now fast forward, we're on chapter 7. He's in this interview conversation. The entire book is a Q&A style book. Okay, Q&A. If you're watching this on YouTube, good to see y'all over there. We got Zoom rolling, we got Instagram rolling. Okay, and happy Friday. And in this chapter, we're going to go into chapter 7 here, Seeds of Fear. Napoleon Hill asks this question. He says, I have often wondered why your opposition, anytime you hear the word opposition, he's talking about God. I've often wondered why your opposition, what we earthbound call God, does not annihilate you. So he's asking the enemy or the devil, why doesn't God just kill you? And he says, because the power is as much mine as his. It is available to me as to him. That is what I've been trying to get over to you. The highest power in the universe, okay, can be used for constructive purposes through what you call God, or it can be used for negative purposes through what you call the devil. And something more important still, it can be used by any human being just as effectively as by God or the devil. And Napoleon says something really powerful, guys. We're reading Outwitting the Devil. We're on chapter 7. If you have the book, if you don't, stick around. We got YouTube rolling, Zoom rolling. It's going to be a fun next couple of minutes. Okay. Napoleon says, you're making a crazy claim. Can you prove it? And the enemy says, yes, but it would be better if you proved it for yourself. The devil's word is not worth much among you earthbound sinners. Neither is God's word. You fear the devil and refuse to trust your God. Therefore, you have one source available through which you may appropriate the benefit of universal power, and that is by trusting and using your own power of thought. That is the direct road to the universal storehouse of infinite intelligence. So in this book, especially if you're a believer, if you believe in God, this book says that God is the truth. This book talks about how God is the one that can give us strength and can give us power. And I think that's good news. And sometimes people see the title and it turns them off because of, what it says here, but anybody can read this book. Okay. Now, page 141, if you have it, Napoleon says, in other words, if you cannot control people through negative bribes or fear, then you wish to kick over the entire apple cart and show people how to go directly to God. Are you by any chance in politics too? This is getting a little spicy. Your technique seems frightfully familiar. And the enemy says, am I in politics? If I am not in politics, who do you believe starts depressions and forces people into wars? Surely you would not lay this at the door of my opposition. Opposition is God. As I have already told you, I have allies in all walks of life to help me in connection with all human relationships. So in the earlier chapters of this book, Napoleon asked the enemy, the devil in the book, he says, how do you take control over people, right? And the enemy gives answers like cigarettes, alcohol, things to distract all of us, right? And what he's saying here is he's asking, is the enemy in politics? Is the enemy in environments that we are seeing on the news every day? We're seeing and hearing about this election happening in a couple of weeks in America. And it feels like the closer you get to an election in a country, if you're in that country specifically, the crazier things just get, right? Can anybody see what's going on here? So the enemy says, of course I'm in politics. Do you think I am a fool? Who would keep alive the fear of the devil if I subdued the churches? Who would serve as a decoy to attract the attention of people while I manipulate their minds if I did not have some agency through which to sow the seeds of fear and doubt? The cleverest thing I do is to use the allies of my opposition. So use the allies of God to keep the fear of hell burning in the minds of people. As long as people fear something, no matter what, I will have a grip on them. And a couple chapters ago, the enemy talks about drifting, how he gets people to drift in their life. Okay, we're reading Outwitting the Devil, how the enemy gets people to drift in their life simply, okay, from one bad habit to the next bad habit. And then they go from drifting and then they fall into this thing that it's a law of nature called hypnotic rhythm. And if you're falling in a hypnotic rhythm, this is why people they'll have a really large goal when they're like 15 or they're 10 or they're young. And then by like 25, 35, 45, they have completely given up on that goal. Watch this. Have you ever quit something? Let me know in the chat. Have you ever quit something? Just put a yes or no. We probably all have, right? Now, let me ask you a deeper question. Have you ever given up on something, a dream, And you don't have to answer this one in the chat, but have you ever given up on a dream that you thought was going to happen? And for me, the answer is yes as well to that. I thought baseball was going to happen. Just didn't work out. Injuries. It's a grind. It's a grind. It's 0.001% of people get paid to play a sport. So I transitioned to entrepreneurship. And I think the best entrepreneurs in the world, the best people in the world have the ability to transition. They have the ability to say, hey, you know what? This just might not be the right vehicle for me. But then they find something and they stick to something else that gets them there. And what the enemy does is he plays these tricks on your mind. He makes you feel like you're not worthy. It's talked about in this book. He makes you feel like you're stupid. He makes you feel like you're less than. He plants these seeds that you start criticizing, right, yourself, or and both of them together, or whatever. You get what I'm saying? It's Friday night. He gets you to compare yourself to other people. And the second the enemy has you comparing you to others, he's won and you're going to lose. And that's when people start drifting heavily. Okay, here's what Napoleon Hill says, page 142, if you have the book. He says, if the force of hypnotic rhythm is not voluntarily applied to attain definite ends, may it be a great danger? And he says, yes. And for the reason that it operates automatically. If it is not consciously applied to attain a desired end, it can and will operate to attain undesired ends. So what the enemy is saying here is if you're listening right now and you have a definite purpose, if you have a chief aim, if you have a goal, if you have a direction in your life, the enemy is less likely to be able to control you because you have the ability to think for yourself. That is a lot of the beginning of the book. And the enemy answers this. If you can think for yourself, you can win. If you can think for yourself, you can make decisions. Okay, if you guys are on Instagram, comment BC to get all my book club updates. What's good, Nas? Good to see you over here. We got Charismatic, got Sports. Good to see you guys on YouTube. We got YouTube running, Zoom running, Instagram Live running. So let me ask you this question right now. When was the last time you had to make a tough decision? When was the last time you had to make a decision that you weren't really sure of? When was the last time you made a decision that you weren't sure of and then it worked out in your favor? And I think that's powerful because sometimes we'll make a decision in an uncertain time. We'll make a decision in a not the best situation, but it still works out. And in that uncertain time, what the enemy is saying in this book is that he comes into your mind in that season and then just gets you to stay in that season. Okay. And that's why people, that whole quote, people have goals and dreams, or what does it say? People, I forgot what it says, but basically people die at 25. They give up on their dreams at 25, whatever the quote is, it doesn't matter. All right. Let's fast forward here. We're going to go to page 144. Okay. Napoleon says hypnotic rhythm. Is it something resembling a magnet which attracts things for which it has a magnet affinity? Is that correct? The enemy says, yeah, that is correct. That is why poverty-stricken herd themselves into the same communities. Wow. It explains that old saying, misery loves company. It also explains why people who begin to succeed in any undertaking find that success multiplies. Everything they touch turns to, finish the sentence for me in the chat on YouTube, finish the sentence on Zoom, finish the sentence on Instagram. Everything they touch turns to, starts with a G. You can trade it. You can buy it. You can invest in it. Everything they touch turns to gold. Exactly. Serena and Macy, everything they touch turns to gold, 100%. And that's why you'll hear people say on podcasts, right? People that are, yeah, thank you, Aaron, for that quote. That's why you'll hear people say on podcasts that are worth like 5, 10, 20, 30, 50, 100 million. They'll tell you that the first 100K was harder than the first million. And then they'll say the first million was harder than the first 5 million. Why? Because you have to ramp up. You have to do some activities and you have to break some chains that just are super uncomfortable. Exactly, Nas. Gold, Jose Gold. Exactly. And he says all successful people use hypnotic rhythm. See, hypnotic rhythm is not just negative. Watch this. He said either consciously or unconsciously by expecting and demanding success. If you ask 9 out of 10 people, do they walk around the world expecting and demanding success? We're reading this book for those that are on Instagram. How many of y'all know some people that are doing the opposite? They just wake up like, all right, let's see what happens today. Hope it's going to be a good one. You know, I remember hearing an audio from Jim Rohn. He says, don't go to sleep tonight until you plan tomorrow. So before I go to bed tonight in the next couple of hours, I'm a night owl, so I stay up till like 1 or 2 in the morning every day. But before I go to sleep tonight, I'll look at my calendar tomorrow. I'll see what I have to do. I'll look at the priorities. Like, you know, my little brother, he's just turned 12. He's a football game in the morning. You know, that's like a priority, you know, so you make a list of the priorities. Okay. Super simple. And then all the free time, you fill it in with money-making activities. You fill it in with things that are going to help you grow, get your health better, something physical, right? Go for a walk, go to the gym, read. Like you fill in all of that time. And a person that can think for themselves can fill in that time and make it a productive. And if you have like a lot of free time, I had a mentor tell me, he said, Mike, people that have a lot of free time are usually broke. People that have a lot of free time are usually struggling financially. Like they're always free. You guys know some people like that? Like they're just always available. Interesting, huh? Now, page 145, Napoleon says hypnotic rhythm cannot change the nature of the physical body one inherits at birth, but it can, and it does modify, change, and control and make permanent. Oh, this is what the enemy is saying. Okay, he's saying that hypnotic rhythm cannot change the nature of the physical body one inherits at birth. So the enemy can't control that, but it can and it does modify, change, and control and make permanent one's environmental influences. It's powerful. It says there are ways and means by which an individual may resist the influences of an environment. So super simple. You grow up in a bad neighborhood. You think that this is just what's normal until you go to a nicer neighborhood. You're used to vacationing in one place. You go vacation somewhere that you've never been. You're like, holy shit, this is crazy. Oh my God, people actually do this? You know? I remember the first time I flew on a private plane. And I was like, this is the experience. When you get on a jet, this is the experience. When you stay at certain hotels, this is the experience. I remember flying first class for the first time. This is the experience. Oh, this is cool. Oh, wow. There's no TSA. There's no security on a private plane. Wow, this is crazy. How do I make this a reality? How do I get this environment to be my reality? It's not my reality right now every time I fly, obviously, but one day it will be. How do I make it a reality? And I think what the enemy is saying here in this book in Outwitting the Devil, okay, we're on page 145. He says, you have to just avoid making the environment your excuse. What's good, Missy? What's up, Angel? What's up, Holly? Good to see you. What's up, Derek? On Instagram, we got YouTube running as well. Powerful. Okay, last thing on this chapter. He says, Napoleon asked the enemy, says, do you mean that there is a definite method of which hypnotic rhythm can be made to serve instead of destroying? The enemy says, yeah, I mean just that. For my description to be of any practical value, it will be necessarily lengthy, because it will have to cover 7 principles of psychology, which must be understood and applied by all those who use hypnotic rhythm to aid them in forcing life to yield that which they want. I think that's such good news. Because hypnotic rhythm is basically, it could be better. It is better than drifting, because drifting, you're drifting bad. Hypnotic rhythm is you just get into that flow. You get into that rhythm that everything that you're just doing is just working. You know, it's kind of like if you're a trader, you know, sometimes you'll see the market, like you'll just see it. Like there will be a streak, like right now I'm on a streak that I'm just not losing. I just not losing trades. But then there will be a streak that it won't be that way. But sometimes you'll just see it and it's just like, wow, this makes sense. And I think hypnotic rhythm as well, and you guys can give me, kind of your definition of this. What's up, Nando? Good to see you. You can give me your definition of this, but it's when everything is just organically unrevealing itself. Everything is just showing up on time. Everything is playing out how it's supposed to play out. Chase says, or a golfer who gets in the zone with like 6 birdies in a row. Exactly. Yeah, you see it in golf all the time. You see it in basketball with Steph Curry all the time. Good point. Okay. We're going to go over a couple more things here tonight, and then we're going to wrap up a little bit early. This book club has been a lot of fun. You can comment BC to get on the notification list for emails and text. If you're on Instagram, and if you're not on Instagram, if you're on YouTube or on Zoom, let me just share this real quick with the YouTube and Zoom. You can go to mikesotero.com/book club, and you can register. I'm going to announce in a few minutes the next book for the month of November, and I'll even give you the dates so you can put them in. It's about a month away, so you have plenty of time to actually get this book, start the book, if you choose to. So let's go here into chapter 9. This is where it talks about education. And in day 2, the conversation is having between Napoleon Hill and the enemy tells Napoleon, the way you fix the educational system is you let the students become teachers and the teachers become students. So let's kind of piggyback on that, and I'll let you know what page we're going to go to real quick. Yeah, we're going to go to page 1. It's Friday night. Shout out to you guys for being here. Page 164. Okay. Now this is, we're not going to start with education. We're going to start with this. Napoleon Hill says, so why do majority of prayers fail? Who's ever wondered that? Put a 1 in the chat if you've ever wondered why majority of prayers fail. And I just think majority of people go to God at the wrong time. They go to God when they need something, not when they're grateful for something. They go to God when something bad happens in their life, not when something good is happening in their life. And we've all done it. And I think it's a challenge for all of us to just continue to give him praise and worship and be thankful, right? When everything is going really good, when everything is really good, let's give him a shout of praise, not just that's not when you need him. Okay. But here's what the enemy says in this chapter. This is one of my favorite chapters. Yeah. This chapter is deep. He says, so Napoleon Hill says, why do the majority of prayers fail? The enemy says they don't. All prayers bring that for which one prays. And then Napoleon says, but you just said that definiteness of purpose is the only sort of prayer upon which one can rely. Now you say that all prayers bring results. What do you mean? The enemy says there's nothing inconsistent about it. The majority of people who pray go to prayer only after everything else fails them. Naturally, they go with their minds filled with fear. I got goosebumps. That the prayers will not be answered. Well, their fears are realized. The person who goes to pray with definiteness of purpose and faith in the attainment of that purpose puts into motion the laws of nature, which transmutes one's dominating desires into their physical equivalent. That is all there is to prayer. So what the enemy's saying here is go to prayer in expectation that it's going to happen. Go to prayer not with a fear that it's not going to happen, and go to prayer with zero fear that it will be unanswered. Go to prayer believing that what you're praying for is going to be answered. And the enemy is saying that's what goes into motion. He says one form of prayer is negative and brings only negative results. One form is positive and brings definite positive results. Could anything be more simple? People who whine and beg God to assume responsibility for all their troubles and provide them with all the necessities and luxuries of life are too lazy to create what they actually want and translate it into existence through the power of their own minds. Okay, it says when you hear a person praying for something that he should procure through his own efforts, you may be sure you are listening to a drifter. Oof, oof. I'm gonna read that one again. When you hear a person praying for something that he should procure through his own efforts. So when you hear people praying for something that they can actually do, I pray for a new car. God's not going to give you a damn new car. You got to go do the work. You got to go add value. You got to go be a person that adds value to other people to maybe make some damn money to then get that car. This is literally so good here tonight. And this is like one of those chapters that made me really like believe this book, because this is all spoken about in the Bible. Like all of this is in Proverbs. This is all there. Okay. He says these things help people negotiate their way through life more harmoniously with one another. But the source from which prayer is answered is not impressed by fine feathers. Oof. Nature's law is know what you want, adapt yourself to my laws, and you shall have it. I literally am. Could you imagine this interview? Like if this actually happened, whether it did or not, it's just crazy. Okay. For those that are on Instagram, we're reading Outwitting the Devil. Thanks for spending some Friday night over here. What's good, YouTube, Zoom? How's everybody doing? Okay. Now here's what he says. He says, this is where, pay attention. Napoleon asked the enemy, does that harmonize with the teachings of Christ? He says, does that harmonize? Meaning, does this come from God? Does this come from Jesus? Does this come from Christ? Watch this. The enemy says, perfectly. Also, it harmonizes with the teachings of all truly the great philosophers. Man. Napoleon says, is your theory of definiteness in harmony with the philosophy of men of science? So, number one, the enemy acknowledges that there's a God. He acknowledges that Christ is real and Christ walked the earth. Okay, you guys got that? That's like the best, probably the best news of the book. Then he says definiteness is the major difference between a scientist and a drifter. Through the principle of definiteness of purpose and a plan, the scientist forces nature to hand over her profound secrets. It was through this principle that Edison uncovered the secret of the talking machine, the incandescent electric light, and the scores of benefits for mankind. And then Napoleon says this, then I understand that definiteness is the first requisite for success in all earthly undertakings. Is that right? And the enemy says, exactly. So good here. Anything which teaches people to examine facts and coordinates them into definite plans through accurate thinking is hard on my profession. Anything which teaches people to examine facts. What are we doing on this book club on a Friday freaking night on YouTube, on Zoom, and on Instagram? We've had about 500 or 600 views on YouTube between 3 days. Damn. Anything which teaches people, anything could be me and you. Anything could be you. If you're teaching people to examine facts, seek the truth, and we live in a world where there's a lot of lies. We live in a world where there's a lot of manipulation. We live in a world where, you know, people are standing on stage right now saying, hey, vote for me. And then behind the scenes, they're sending money to other countries when people in North Carolina just lost their houses. Like you can read between the lines, guys. If this thirst for definite knowledge now spreading over the world keeps up, remember, 1930s, this was written. If this thirst for definite knowledge now spreading over the world keeps up, my business will be shot to pieces within the next few centuries. So the enemy is basically saying that if enough people in the world can think for themselves and make decisions and have goals, he can't win. But what are they doing? I was in Europe last year for a lot of last year, and I witnessed in Switzerland right now, it's bad. Yeah. Obviously, it's expensive, but forget about the money for a second. For US to Zurich, it's bad. But what's worse is the agenda that they are pushing. It's so sick. It's so disgusting. If you're in Europe, you know what I'm talking about right now. Some stuff that's happening in Europe. I love Europe. Spent like 5-6 months there last year. I love Europe. I've been to like 20 countries in Europe. But some of the agendas are so toxic in Europe right now. And what the enemy is saying is that, and here's the reason I bring that up. He says, I can't be in business if people keep thinking for themselves. But then the elite class and then the people that run the show, They're doing everything in their power to keep the devil in business. I said it. Yeah, I said it. And he says, I thrive on ignorance, superstition, intolerance, and fear, but I cannot stand up under definite knowledge properly organized into definite plans in the minds of people who think for themselves. Why do you think, why do you think, I'm going to come back to that because I think he talks about it here. Put a 7 in the chat if you're still with me here tonight. Happy Friday. I hope y'all are doing good. Brandon on YouTube, Brandon Pawlowski says, I know exactly what you are talking about. If you've been in Europe in the past couple of years, you see those parades going on and you see what the agenda that they're pushing, especially to kids. It's fucking sickening, to be honest. Okay, now listen to this. Napoleon says, why aren't children taught definiteness of purpose in schools? Why aren't children taught to have a goal in schools, is what he's saying, in public schools. He says, for the reason that there is no definite plan or purpose behind any of the school curriculum. Children are sent to school to make credits and to learn how to memorize, not to learn what they want out of life. I mean, can we all agree? I'm not saying all schools. I'm not saying all teachers. We have teachers that are watching this right now, and we appreciate you. Hopefully, you're one of the good ones. I have family members that are teachers. You know, they're one of the good ones. They're on the good team. They're on the A team. But guess what? Why are we seeing like the crazy stuff happen? Like it's like every week now where teachers are doing stuff like not all teachers, not all schools. But why aren't children taught to have goals in schools? Just like why aren't we taught to have a tax class in high school? Flora just said I can tell you stories. Flora, are you in the school system or we're in the school system? And that, guys, it's obviously not all teachers. Obviously, it's not all schools. Oh, kids. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. Okay, now here's what he says. Page 169. I deduce from all you say that neither the schools nor the churches prepare use of the world with a practical working knowledge of their own minds. Is anything of more importance to a human being than understanding of the forces and circumstances which influence his own mind? The enemy says the only thing of enduring value to any human being, the only thing of enduring value to any human being is a working knowledge of his own mind. The churches do not permit a person to inquire into the possibilities of his own mind. And the schools should not recognize that such a thing as the mind exists. Okay, we're reading Outwitting the Devil. And I'm the messenger. You can go form your own opinion if you think if the interview happened, and you can go take what you want from this book. There's some things in this book that I don't take, but a lot of it woke me up. And I read this book 1 year after it was published. It was written in 1938. It was suppressed for almost 100 years. Napoleon says, then you do not have many people to fear. And the enemy says, only 2 out of 100 to be exact. I control all others. Now, I think this is a fact. I think the enemy does have control over 98 out of 100 people in the world. And this message ain't for everybody, I'll tell you that. Napoleon says, let's give churches a rest and get back to public schools. Your confession has shown clearly that you thrive and perpetuate yourself from one generation to another by the clever trick of taking over the minds of children before they have the chance to learn and how to use their minds. And also like coaches, like I've had so many coaches in sports my whole life. And like, that's a way you influence children as well. Anything to do with schools or coaching or teaching. And what the enemy's saying here is that he takes over the minds of kids when they're young. Why? They're less likely to be bribed. They're less likely to be able to think for themselves. The earlier that he gets them, essentially, then the more control he can have over their life. And he says, I wish to know what is wrong with the public school system. And he says, wait a moment, while I catch my breath. You have given me quite an order. It seems strange that you would come to the devil to learn how to live. I should think you would go to my opposition. Why don't you? And he says, the enemy says, you leave me no choice, page 172, but that of a direct answer. The public school system approaches the subject of education from the wrong angle. It says the school system endeavors to teach children to memorize facts instead of teaching them how to use their own minds. He said that 3 times now in this chapter. Hopefully it's clicking. And if you have kids, I don't. If you have kids, don't just give them things, right? Like challenge them, like make them earn things. Like I think if you're watching this right now at 10:34 Eastern, that makes sense, right? Here's what he says. That is only the beginning. Another major weakness of the school system is that it does not establish in the minds of children either the importance of definitive purpose or to make any attempt to teach youth how to be definite about anything. Okay. The major object of all schooling is to force students to cram their memories with facts instead of teaching them how to organize and make practical use of facts. He says this cramming system centers the attention of students to accumulation of credits. And man, I went to college for a couple of semesters. How many credits you have? How many credits is this class? I mean, I don't know. What do you think? Thus, the entire school system was evolved by beginning at the top and working back down to the bottom. If you know, you know. If you know, you know. It is no wonder the system neglects to teach children the importance of definiteness of purpose when the system itself has literally evolved through indefiniteness. Powerful. Yeah. Wow. Okay, now watch this. This is a good part here. Page 174, it says, describe the changes needed as they come to you. And the enemy says, you are forcing me to commit an act of treason against myself, but here it is. This is what the enemy is telling Napoleon Hill how to fix the system. I'm not the message here. The messenger. Here's what he says. He says, reverse the present system by giving children the privilege of leading in their school work instead of following orthodox rules. Organize all schoolwork into definite methods through which the student can learn by doing, and direct the classwork so that every student engages in some form of practical labor connected with the daily problems of life. Okay. I don't even remember reading this. This is good. Ideas are the beginning of all human achievement. Teach all students how to recognize practical ideas that may be of life. Teach students how to budget and use time. Above all, teach the truth that time is the greatest asset available to all human beings. Can we all agree that I think that's an important thing to teach children? I don't have any, but maybe you do. Teaching kids like, hey, and I'm not telling you when they're freaking 3 years old. Hey, little Sally, you're not going to teach this 3-year-old about death. She was just born. But as kids get older, helping them realize, like, hey, time's going to go. Let's invest. Like, I'm not trying to use money in this example, but let's invest some time in giving back. Let's invest some money in just, here's your, what's it called? Like, not a salary to a kid, but what do they call it? Like an allowance. Here's your allowance. You have $100 in this, or 100 of something, $1 or 100. What are you going to do with 10%? Oh, we're going to give 10%. Great. Oh, we're going to invest 25%. Great. I have some friends that do this with their kids that are 5, 6 years old. And, these kids might even have maybe not more money, but they have more of a understanding of money than most adults. Let's go back to the book. Page 175. We're reading Outwitting the Devil. Glad you're here. If you're on Instagram, comment BC to get on my book club. Teach children what to eat. This is the only book club I'm doing, by the way, that will be on Instagram. Like, we're streaming on Zoom, YouTube, and here. All of them will be in one place moving forward, and it will not be on Instagram. So just a heads up. And I'm going to give you guys my next book for next month in 7 minutes. We're going to wrap this up. Okay. Teach children to be definite in all things, beginning with the choice of definite major purpose in life. Teach children the nature of possibilities for good. This is so important. I wish somebody taught me this when I was younger, like really young. Teach children the difference between temporary defeat and failure, and show them how to search for the seed of an equivalent advantage which comes with every defeat. What the enemy is answering in this book right now, and he's saying, teach children when they're young the difference between, hey, you might have not won today, but what can we do to get better here? Okay. How can we use this as a growing? How can we use this as a pedestal? How can we use this as a trampoline to come back and do better, whether it's in sports, whatever, it doesn't matter. Whether they fall at the playground. Hey, you know what? It's okay. Wipe yourself out. What can we learn from this? Okay, don't jump off the second story of the house. We can learn from this. Oh, you broke your arm on a trampoline. Okay, what can we learn from this? It's okay. Your arm's going to fix itself. Man, this is so good right here as well. And for those that have kids, you might probably do this, hopefully. Teach children to express their own thoughts fearlessly and to accept or reject at will all ideas of others, reserving to themselves always the privilege or relying upon their own judgment. I mean, you guys probably see it. It's the kid that's like super quiet, right? I was the quiet kid for sure, but like to an extent, right? Teach them how to think for themselves. Teach children the nature and value of self-control. Teach children the value of harmony in their own minds. This book has it all. Okay, we don't have time. But there's a whole lot. He gives like 3 pages of lists. Okay, so Napoleon comes back and he says, some of the changes you suggest are so unorthodox that they would shock most of the educators of today. Right? Some of those that we just named would piss off, would anger teachers and school people, right? It might have made you mad and you got off. Who cares? And if you get angry from somebody reading a book, you probably don't have the ability to think for yourself. If you get angry, I'm gonna say it. If you get angry when you see Trump, or if you see Kamala, or if you see a person, you don't have the ability to think for yourself. You don't have to like them. Shit, you don't have to agree with them. You don't have to vote for them. That's not what this is about. But I've seen emotional intelligence, correct. I've seen people burn friendships because of politics. It's not about talking about it. It's about being, oh, okay, we don't agree. Who gives a shit? I like the Dodgers. You might like the Padres. I like the Miami Heat. You might like the Lakers. Am I going to befriend you? Am I going to delete you on my Instagram because you're a Lakers fan? No, it wouldn't make any sense, right? But people do that in politics. Why? Because it's created to do that. It's orchestrated to do that. It was designed to do that. Here's my prediction. In 6 months from now, after this election, you won't hear anything about really politics. You know when you will? 2027, 2028, when the next election happens. It happens every 4 years. Just like a pandemic happens every 4, 5, 6 years. Go to a Tony Robbins event, 4th day, UPW. He exposes all of it. I have the workbook in my other room. There's always the swine flu, the bird flu, the African flu, this flu. There's all these different things that happen every 4 to 6 years. This vaccine, that vaccine, that's not new. That's been going on for the past 100 years. And people that don't know how to think for themselves fall into the trap of getting so emotional. Instead of looking in, what did Napoleon just say? What is the seed of equivalent advantage? Why is this happening? How many of y'all put a 2 in the chat if you see that there's a lot of division in the world right now? Some of you aren't even in America, and you guys message me like, yo, what is going on over there? Some of you messaged me about the hurricane that happened last week in Florida. You know what really made me mad? And obviously it did affect certain areas. Of course, it was a hurricane, but definitely God took that thing and destroyed it as it got to land. But you know what made me mad? Is you had the mayor of a city in Tampa. I think she was in Tampa. That lady. She said, you should write the number of a family member on your body so when you die, they'll know how to identify you. What? That's what she said. Go look on YouTube. I think she's the mayor of Tampa. What? And you know what's funny is people probably did that shit. People probably did that. It's super simple. You're in an evacuation zone, you evacuate. You make a decision for yourself to do that. But you know what really makes me not mad, not angry, but you know what really makes me, what adds to this conversation is that they have to inflict so much fear into people. And guess what most people do? Wow. Because that person's in a position doesn't mean that they're a leader. A person that can think for themselves is aware of that. Oh, you have a title, great. I respect you because you're another human and you should respect everybody. But when people say stuff like that, the respect is out the window, and I have zero reason to even ever listen to you. And I appreciate those that checked up on us in Florida, but we're good. Okay. If more people live in gratitude, yeah, 100%. Okay, last couple pages here. We're gonna wrap this thing up. This has been a really fun book club. This book is just too long and too good to go through literally every single chapter here. I want to fast forward toward the end of the book, and we're gonna go to page 202. Okay, we're gonna end it with this. This is a great way to end this book, and hopefully you've had a good time here the past 4 days. All of the recordings are on my YouTube. Okay, all 4 days are recorded on my YouTube. Napoleon says, to close this out, is failure ever a benefit to man? Is failure ever a benefit? You failed, I have. You messed up, I have. He says, yes, indeed, learning from adversity is the third of the 7 principles. But few people know that every adversity bring with it the seed of an equivalent advantage. We just said that, right? Still, fewer people know the difference between temporary and failure. If this knowledge were generally known, I would be deprived of my strongest weapons of control over human beings. Wow. In 2016, I thought failure was permanent. And I made some decisions that I thought was just like, damn, this is it. I'm in trouble. But it wasn't. It was temporary. You're going through financial struggle. It's temporary. Only you can make it permanent. He says that is just the point. Okay, so then Napoleon says, but I understood that you said that failure is one of your greatest allies. I got the impression from your confession that failure causes people to lose ambition. And then the enemy says, that is just the point. I take them over after they quit trying. If they knew the difference between temporary defeat and failure, they would not quit when they meet with the opposition from life. Opposition is God in this book, okay? If they knew that every form of defeat and all failures bring with them the seed of unborn opportunity, they would keep on fighting and they would win. Isn't that great news for everybody here? Success usually is but one of the short steps beyond the point. Success is usually but one short step beyond the point where one quits fighting. Classic motivational quote. One more step, right? Then he says, failure, okay, the enemy says this, failure is a man-made circumstance. Damn, that's good. It is never real until it has been accepted by man as permanent. Don't miss these book clubs. Like that one sentence right there. If you waited 4 days for something, hopefully that was the message that hit home. Stating it in another way, failure is a state of mind. Therefore, it is something that an individual can control until he neglects to exercise this privilege. Nature does not force people to fail. Who created nature? Starts with a G, ends in odd. God. God created nature. Nature does not force people to fail, but nature does impose her law of hypnotic rhythm on all minds, and through this law gives permanency to the thoughts which dominate those minds. In other words, failure thoughts are taken over by the law of hypnotic rhythm and made permanent if the individual accepts any circumstances as being permanent failure. Page 204, we're almost done here. Literally last like 2 pages. Failure brings a climax in which one has the privilege of clearing his mind of fear and making a new start in another direction. Failure proves conclusively that something is wrong with one's aims or plans by which the object of these aims is sought. Failure is the dead end to the habit path one has been following, and when it is reached, it forces one to leave that path and take up another, thereby creating a new rhythm. But failure does more than this. It gives an individual an opportunity to test himself, where he may learn how much willpower he possesses. Failure also forces people to learn many truths that they would never discover without it. Put O2 in the chat if you can relate to that. I'm going to say it again. Failure also forces people to learn many truths that they would never discover without it. Oh my God, that's good. Wow. Think about something that you failed at. Think about something that didn't happen for you. You wanted it to happen, but it didn't happen. You failed. You lost. Who cares? We're going to move forward. What did you learn from that? And here's the thing. It's like people don't sit back with like, they're always on their phone, right? Like people don't get into an alone time with themselves and just say, okay, this is what I went through. Why did I go through that? Oh, wow. And then just write a list. I encourage you to do that. What's the thing that taught, what's the thing that you learned in that season? People's screen time on their phone is 15 hours a day on TikTok. So like they're watching other people and not watching what they're thinking, or they're not focused on how they're feeling. They're letting their environment dictate how they feel instead of creating an environment that makes you feel better. Okay. He said, study the lives of all people who achieve outstanding success in any calling and observe with profit. And their success is usually an exact ratio to their experiences of defeat before succeeding. So good. So good. A lot of twos on YouTube, a lot of twos everywhere. He says this on page 205. Nature uses illness to break the physical rhythm of the body. When the cells and organs become improperly related, she uses economic depressions to break the rhythm of mass thought when great numbers of people become improperly related through business, social, and political activities. And she uses failure to break the rhythm of negative thought when an individual becomes improperly related to himself and his own mind. Observe carefully, and you will see that everywhere in nature, there is always at work a natural law which gives eternal change to all matter, all energy, to the power of thought. When mass failure overtakes a nation, such as the 1929 World Depression, remember, the world went into a depression in 1929. This book was written about 10 years later. The circumstances is in perfect harmony with nature's plan to break up man's habits and give out fresh opportunities. All the traders on here, all the investors, all the people that serve people with whatever product or service you sell, did you not just hear that? When mass failure overtakes the nation, such as the Great Depression in 1929, the circumstance is in perfect harmony with nature's plan to break up man's habits and give out fresh opportunities. Didn't that happen in 2008 recently? Didn't that happen during the COVID pandemic when stocks went to record lows? Bitcoin went to under about $4,000. Ethereum went back to what? Hundreds of dollars. Solana wasn't even around. Think about that. When failure overtakes a nation, such as the Great Depression, the circumstance is in perfect harmonious nature's plans to break up man's habits and give out fresh opportunities. You know why that's powerful? As I said this on day one, is do you know in America, for at least, here's some American history for you. In the Great Depression, or before the Great Depression, out of 100 men or 100 people, 95% of people in America ran a small business, or they owned a business. And then 5% of people were employees. So it was 95% of people taking risks, embracing failure, building business, right? When the Great Depression happened in the 1920s, what happened? People became fearful. Stock market crashed. People were losing money. Businesses were failing. World War I, right, just ended. All this bad stuff started to take place. So people became fearful. And what do? Hey, you know what? Just give me a paycheck. What's a paycheck? Okay. It's a check that tells you how much you're going to get paid. But in reality, it's somebody else telling you how much that you're worth. And I'm not down on jobs. I'm up on opportunity. I'm up on you providing for your family. I'm up on you doing what you have to do to pay the bills in a non-fearful way. But guess what? The tides turned. It went from 95% business owners to then 5% business owners, 95% employees, which is kind of where it's at today. Most people don't have a business, guys. Most people don't have an LLC. Most people don't understand credit. Most people don't understand trading. Most people don't take risk. Most people are not entrepreneurs. And then we live in a world 100% that the world shames you for taking risks. We also live in a world where the world shames you and kind of brings you down for starting a business instead of supporting you. Hey, we'll support you. We're going to go get drinks. I'll support you if you're going to go get some beer on Friday night. And if anybody is watching this book club at the club right now, I appreciate you, but please get home safe. Take an Uber. Hey, you want to go get some drinks and do some alcohol and other illegal activity? Not alcohol, but, do illegal activities. I'm in. Sign me up. That's what people do. Hey, Flora. Hey, Macy. Hey, you want to build this business with me? You want to work together and add some value to people? Nah, it's too good to be true. Nah, I'm good. I don't want to do that. I'm good. I'm chill. Not chill. Let's just stay where it's comfortable. Forget about comfort. You're just staying in a place because you're scared, because the enemy has control over you, because you don't have the ability to think for yourself yet. Okay. Last question, and then we are done. Last question, and then we are done right here. Okay. Napoleon says, what is the greatest benefit one may receive through adversity? You're going through a tough time right now. Let's talk about it. The greatest benefit of adversity is that it may and generally does force one to change one's thought habits, thus breaking and redirecting the force of hypnotic rhythm. Napoleon asked the enemy on page 215, he says, what benefits may be derived from the loss of material things, money, for example? Anybody ever made some money and lost it? The enemy says the loss of material things may teach many needed lessons. None greater, however, than the truth that man has control over nothing and has no assurance of the permanent use of anything except his own power of thought. And then Napoleon says, I wonder if this is not the greatest benefit available through adversity? Enemy says, no. The greatest potential benefit of any circumstance which causes one to make a fresh start is that it provides an opportunity to break the grip of hypnotic rhythm and set up a new set of thought habits. New habits offer the only way out for people who fail. Most people who escape from negative to the positive operation of the law of hypnotic rhythm do so only because of some form of adversity which formed them to change their own thought habits. So you're going through a season that you're not happy about, that you're not proud of, that you don't like. He says, what are your thought habits? What are you thinking? What are you doing? I'll say it again. What are you thinking? What are you doing? That's why. He says, isn't adversity to break one's self-reliance and cause one to give up? And the enemy says, it has the effect on those whose willpower is weak through long established habits of drifting. That's why a drifter can see other people drifting, I believe. Excuse me. A non-drifter can see other people who are drifting through life. And it is you. And look, some of you, you're scared to tell your friend, hey, you're John, Sally, you're drifting. Like if you're their friend, you should be able to say, hey, you know what? Hold on. Do I have permission to tell you something that you might not want to hear? And if they're your friend, they're going to say yes, right? You're drifting. We need a correct course. That's what mentorship is. That's what leadership is. Leaders get people that are probably drifting or they're probably not where they want to be. And they bring people together to work together for a common goal or common destination of where everybody wants to go. Okay. It says the non-drifter meets with temporary defeat and failure, but his reaction to all forms of adversity is positive. He fights instead of giving up and usually wins. Hopefully that's everybody here. Life gives no one immunity against adversity. Oof. That's an Instagram caption right there, y'all. Life gives no one immunity against adversity, meaning we're all going to go through it. But life gives to everyone the power of positive thought, which is sufficient to master all circumstances of adversity and convert them into benefits. The individual is left with the privilege of using or neglecting to use his prerogative right to think his way through all adversities. The law of hypnotic rhythm forces every individual to give some degree of use, either negative or positive, to his mind, but it does not influence the individual as to which use he will make of his mind. And I just want to read this quote one more time. We're done here. We're done. I got the next book right here. Got the next book right here that we're going to do in November. It's going to be that's going to be really fun. It says the non-drifter meets with temporary defeat and failure. I just want to read that quote one more time. But his reaction to all forms of adversity is positive. Damn, I lost that trade. Damn, I lost some money. Damn, that person quit on me. Damn, I'm going through this situation. Let's go. He fights instead of giving up and usually wins. And I think that's good news for all of us here that, obviously if you give up and quit, you ain't going to win in anything you do. But guys, this book club has come to an end. I encourage you to go listen to it. I encourage you to go on YouTube, just type in Outwitting the Devil. Listen to the audio. The audio is 10 times better than me. Okay, so go listen to that. You guys can go to mikesotero.com. If you're on Zoom or YouTube, I'll show you one more time. If you're on Instagram, comment BC to get on the next book club. But this book club's come to an end. Let me give you the dates, and then we're going to have the website updated this weekend. But let me give you the dates for the next one and the book. And this book, I actually just started reading, and it's going to be a fun one. Okay, the next book club is going to be, if somebody can put this in the chat for everywhere, it's going to be November 18, 19, 20, 21. Okay. November 18, and this is like 90% sure. When I update the website, I'll give you guys the exact dates, but I'm pretty sure this is the dates we decided. But November 18, 19, 20, 21, it's a Monday through Friday, 10 p.m. Eastern. You have to be on the list to know where we're going to do it. We might do it on Zoom. We might just do it on YouTube. We definitely won't be doing it on Instagram. And now who's ready for the book? Okay, now this book, the way we're going to do it, okay, this is going to be interesting. The way we're going to do it, and I'll show you guys the title here in a second, is we're literally going to start, the book club with no agenda. That book club, we are just going to do this. And we're going to open up to a random page, because that's what I've been doing with this book. Okay, let me actually show you guys the book on Zoom and YouTube, and then I'll show it to you guys on Instagram real quick, Jane. This is the book I just got about 3 weeks ago. I've been reading it every single day. And I'm going to show you guys a picture of this book. And you can get it on Amazon or at Target or any of those places. It's a book by Mr. Wayne Dyer. And this book is called, I'm going to show you guys on YouTube real quick, Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life. And what we're going to do with this book is, like I said, we're going to every day, because it comes from the Tao Te Ching, and there is a lot of spirit. This is a really spiritual book. Wayne Dyer is one of my favorite people to learn from. Yes, November 18, 19, 2021, 18 to 21, okay? What we're going to do with this book is we are literally just going to open it every day. So like right now, I just opened it, and the 44th verse of the Tao Te Ching says, which means more to you, you or your renown, which brings more to you, you or what you own. I say what you gain is more trouble than what you lose. Love is the fruit of sacrifice. Wealth is the fruit of generosity. A contented man is never disappointed. He who knows when to stop. There's too much sauce, okay? Too much sauce. And then it says, living by knowing when to stop. But forget about this right now. Go back, study what you learned here. Hopefully you took away one or two things from this book. Go on YouTube, listen to the audiobook, and we'll see you on the next book club. DeFi Mike is out. Hope y'all had a great book club. Look forward to doing this with you guys once a month for a couple of days. And if it grows and there's demand there, we'll continue to do it. All I can ask is continue to spread the word. I'll have a playlist set up. I'll have a playlist set up on my YouTube of the recordings. I will be emailing you guys this weekend. So look out for your emails for those that register for the book club. I'll be sending you the exact YouTube recording playlist. So it's in one place. You just click the link and then it's on my YouTube. All 4 videos are there. You can go back, study it, send it out, share it. And if you're on YouTube right now,